Hello photographers, this video is the first in my series on flash photography, and we're starting with the gear. When you buy a flash, you don't necessarily want to buy just a flash. If you do, you're essentially getting a super powered version of the pop-up flash that comes on your camera. Now, that's definitely better than just using your pop-up flash, but it's still pretty limited. The main limitation is that the flash is stuck on the camera. To get the flash off the camera and really have some fun, you'll need a flash, a way to trigger the flash off camera, a light stand, an umbrella bracket, and an umbrella. So we're going to start with some flash options. And when buying a flash, there are a few things to consider. How powerful is the flash? How fast can it recharge? And is it TTL capable? There are other flash features, but for getting started, these are the most important. A flash's power is given as the guide number, which is a distance given in meters and in feet. Ideally, you want to get a flash that has a guide number of around 58 meters, which would be 190 feet. There are more powerful flashes that you can get, but for getting started, this is more than enough power. The recycle time is how fast the flash recharges after you fire it, and it's given as a range of time in seconds. It's a range because how fast it recharges depends on how much of the flash's power you're currently using. What you want to look at is the longest recycle time, which is how long it takes to recharge at full power. And ideally, you'll get a flash with a recycle time of 5 seconds or faster. The TTL capability determines if the flash and the camera can communicate or not. If the flash is TTL capable, then it can receive complex instructions from the camera. If it is not TTL capable, then the only thing the camera can tell the flash to do is fire. Now, one thing you need to know about TTL flashes is that they are manufacturer specific, meaning a TTL flash designed to work with Canon cameras will not work with Nikon cameras. So if you decide to get a TTL flash, you need to make sure that it is compatible with your camera. Now, before we get started, I wanted to let you know that I've got all of this and more in my flash photography buying guide, which I'll tell you how to get at the end of this video. The gear you choose will depend in part on your budget, but I've got options for every budget here. So at the cheapest end, you'll be able to get a full one light setup for under $100, and at the most expensive end, you can spend over $500. So let's start with the flash. I have 4 options with you, starting with this Nuir TT560 flash. This is a $33 manual-only flash with a guide number of 38 and a recycle time of 5 seconds. With a guide number of 38, it is actually the least powerful flash of the flashes I'm recommending, but it is an extremely affordable and reliable flash, which is perfect if you're working on a budget. The next option is the Yongnuo YN564 flash. This is a $69 manual-only flash with a guide number of 58 and a recycle time of 5 seconds. What's nice about this flash is that it also has a built-in radio trigger, which is great when it comes to working off camera. And like the Nuir flash, it is a very reliable flash. Now, the third option is the only TTL flash that I'm recommending, which is the Aperture YH700 flash. This is a $95 TTL capable flash with a guide number of 58 and a recycle time of 3 seconds. It's available for Canon and Nikon cameras and is a great and affordable TTL flash that can also be used manually with radio triggers. And finally, the most expensive flash I'm recommending is the Lumo Pro LP180. This is a $149 flash that was designed specifically for off-camera work. It is very solidly built, it's backed by a 2-year warranty, has a guide number of 60 meters, and a recycle time of 4 seconds. Now, of these 4 flashes, you'll notice that only one of these is TTL, which I mentioned before, and it's only compatible with Canon or Nikon. The reason for this is twofold. First, you don't really need TTL to get started. I included a TTL capable flash because I know some of you will want TTL, but honestly, I recommend you start with one of these fully manual flashes. Second, if you shoot a brand other than Canon or Nikon and you want TTL, your options are pretty much limited to the flashes that are made by your camera manufacturer, and those tend to be the most expensive flashes to buy. But as I said, I don't really recommend you start with a TTL flash. Now, just to be clear, each one of these 3 manual flashes that I'm recommending will work with any camera that has a flash hot shoe. After you choose the flash, you need to choose a radio trigger, and a radio trigger enables you to fire the flash without having the flash connected to the camera. This enables you to put the flash just about anywhere you want when you're shooting. And a radio trigger is typically two pieces: a transmitter that attaches to the camera to send the signal, and then a receiver that attaches to the flash to receive that signal. There are a lot of radio triggers out there to choose from, but choosing a trigger is pretty simple. The main thing to look for is whether or not the trigger actually works, and for the most part, they all work. So with that, here are the triggers that I recommend. The budget option are these Nuir triggers for $15. This set contains one transmitter and one receiver, which is all you need to get started. The Nuirs are not the best in terms of design, but they work, and in the end, that is all that matters. As the cheapest trigger option, the range on these is limited to 98 feet, which is more than enough range for almost every shooting condition. Now next up is the Yongnuo RF6032 transceiver. A transceiver is a trigger that can work as the on-camera transmitter or as the receiver connected to the flash. And you can get a set of the RF603 transceivers for $33. Now what's great about the RF603 is that it will trigger the receiver that is built into the Yongnuo YN564 flash. And that means if you choose the YN564, you don't need to attach a trigger to it. All you need is the RF6032 on the camera and you will be able to fire the flash. Even better, when you're to the point when you're ready to add another flash to your system, you can just get another Yongnuo YN564 and it'll be ready to trigger with the RF6032 that you already have. With every other radio trigger system, if you get a new flash, you also need to get a new receiver to be able to trigger that flash. In addition to the compatibility with the YN564, the RF6032 has a nicer build than the Nuir triggers, and it has a significantly larger range of up to 328 feet. Another triggering option from Yongnuo is the YN560TX Commander. The 560TX is a dedicated transmitter that not only wirelessly fires the YN564 flashes, but also allows you to assign your flashes into groups and to remotely change the power settings of your flashes. The 560TX is $7 more than the RF6032 transceivers, coming in at $40, which is a pretty incredible value. And finally, we have the Pocket Wizard's Plus 3 transceiver. Like the RF6032, the Plus 3 is a combination transmitter and receiver in a single unit. These are the most expensive triggering options, and while Pocket Wizards are kind of considered the industry standard, in my opinion, these are a bit overpriced. The benefits of these are super rugged build quality, the ability to use multiple Plus 3s as repeaters to trigger your flash up to a mile away, and the ability to assign flashes into different groups. Picking a trigger is a bit more complicated because it kind of depends on the flash you decide on. If you're on a tight budget and you need to keep it as cheap as possible, then get these Nuir triggers. If you've got a bit of room to play in your budget, I think the best price to value option is the Yongnuo YN564 flash with the RF6032 transceivers or with the 560TX Commander. And as far as the Pocket Wizards go, if you want one's generally considered to be the best trigger you can get, then get the Plus 3s. But honestly, I don't really think these are worth the total cost. It's not that they're bad, but they're expensive. Now, the hardest part of this is picking the flash and picking your triggers. After you do that, you need to choose a stand, a bracket, and an umbrella, which is much easier. For the stand, if you're on a budget, I recommend you get this Nuir 6-footer for $16. It is not an amazing stand, but it will hold your flash, and in the end, that is all you need. If you want something a bit more durable, I'd highly recommend the Lumo Pro LP607 compact light stand. It's more expensive at $45, but it's really well built and it folds up into a nice and small package, which is really great for carrying around. For a bracket on a budget, again, Nuir comes in with the cheapest option for $6.99 or the slightly better one for $9.99. Either one will be good enough to mount to your stand and hold your flash and umbrella, but the bracket that I use and the one that I prefer is this dot line umbrella bracket. It's pricier at about $25, but it is definitely worth the money. It is super durable, it's very easy to use and adjust the position of your flash, and it will last for years. And then finally we have the umbrella. The cheapest option is again made by Nuir, and it is a $33 shoot-through umbrella that you can get for $10. And it's a fine umbrella. Like all the Nuir stuff, it's not amazing, but it's definitely affordable and it will definitely get the job done. The umbrella that I use and recommend is the Westcott 43-inch satin shoot-through umbrella. It's very reasonable at $21. Its diameter is 10 inches bigger than the Nuire, which gives you softer light, and it's a better built umbrella. And that's everything you actually need to get started with flash photography. Now, as promised, if you're on a tight budget, going with all the Nuire options gets you a full setup for under $100. But before I wrap up, I want to answer the question that some of you may be asking yourselves, which is, if you, meaning me, were starting now, what would you buy? If I had no flash gear right now, this is what I would get. I would buy the Yongnuo YN564 with the 560TX Commander unit, the Luma Pro light stand with the dot line umbrella bracket, and the Westcott umbrella, which in total would cost $198. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I've put all of this information, including links to everything I mentioned in this video, in my flash photography buying guide. And if you want to get that guide, you can click this link right here. In the next video, we're going to go over how to set up and use all of this stuff that I've been talking about. But in the meantime, if you have any questions about flash photography, any of the gear I discussed in this video, or photography in general, let me know down in the comments. And then do me a favor, would you like the video and subscribe to my channel? If you really like this video, please share it with your friends. But the most important thing you need to do is get out there and take some damn photos. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the live show.
What you should never buy for photography is this kind of junk. These things like these $100, $75, $50 kits, these are basically glorified lamps, and they look like they're good for photography, but these are garbage. Don't waste your money.